How many days a week should I power snatch? Today we talk about how many days a week should I power snatch, depending on your goals, other responsibilities. You pick the training frequency on how many times a week you should power snatch. How many days a week should I power snatch? The answer to that question lies in what's your goal, determining your goal, understanding your goal, and what are your other responsibilities? How much time a week do you have to invest in strength training? In my case, training athletes, training Olympians, my responsibility is to improve sports performance. So whether they are on a bike, whether they are on a track, whether they are in the field, it's important that they get better in their sport. So we need to see how much time do they have to invest in their sport and how much time do they have to invest in their strength training. From there, once we know how much time they have for the strength training, we can see how much time there is for exercise A, exercise B, exercise C. So the power snatch could be one of these exercises, and then we see how many times a week does it make sense to put that particular exercise into the training program. Another important factor to consider is that consistency and perseverance is much more important than ambition. What does that mean? I see it very often. People start off very ambitious and at some point the ambition drifts off and then the training frequency can't be maintained. So in that case, I would recommend it's much more important to do the power snatch once a week or twice a week and do it on an ongoing basis rather than going to the gym 4 times a week, starting off very ambitious and after a few weeks going 2 times, 1 time, and then at some point not going anymore. Also important is to understand the relation between effort and reward. What that means is once you're starting off, it seems there is a linear relationship between effort and reward. So the more you put in, the more you get out. The more you are advanced, that relationship shifts. And unfortunately, it shifts to that side where you have to put in more effort and the rewards will become less. So that's also important to consider, where are you in your athletic career? And from there, you also have to determine your training frequency. I've spoken about that topic, how many days a week should I power clean, before. So today we talk about how many days a week should I power snatch. There is, in my opinion, a very special consideration for the power snatch as opposed to the power clean. And that is that the weakest link in the power snatch is the shoulder, because we have to bring the weight overhead and stabilize it overhead. So the shoulder is, in most cases, the weakest link. What that means is, generally speaking, you can do the power clean more often than the power snatch. So if we look at a training frequency, 1 to 2 times a week doing the power snatch would be sufficient in most cases. I'm not talking about Olympic weightlifters because that's different. But for athletes and ambitious athletes, 1 to 2 times a week is sufficient. And I would advise, if you're doing more than once a week, you should also look at the loading pattern. And what that means is, if you do on day 1 a certain amount of your 1 repetition maximum, so it might be 90%, let's say, on the second day, you should have some variation. So you shouldn't have the same intensity on both days. And I would also advise to have a variation of the lift. So if you do the power snatch on the first day and you do it from the ground, for example, you can do on the second day the power snatch from the blocks or from the hang, or you do the snatch pull. Very important to mention is that the exercise, for example, the power snatch or any exercise for us is a means to an end. It's not the end in itself. So, for example, we do the power snatch to teach a powerful triple extension. So it's not necessarily that you need to do the power snatch. If you can't do the power snatch for any given reason, There are also ways to do other exercises that will give you the same benefit. As a recap, training frequency depends on your goal and your other responsibilities. Effort and reward, so the more advanced you are, the more you have to put into your training to get something out. And a special consideration for the power snatch, the weakest link in most cases is the shoulder, so be careful with the training frequency. And if you do more than once a week, you should look at variations in loading and variations in the exercise.